Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What infamous movie plot hole has an explanation that you're tired of explaining? The first rule of Fight Club. And the growing number of members is because it is meant to teach the members to break rules. I see a lot of new faces here, which means a lot of you have been breaking the first two rules. Camera pans to everyone smirking. It's pretty obvious that this is the most commonly broken rule. And their fearless leader doesn't give a shit about it being broken. He breaks many of his own rules, including when he nearly beats Jared Leto to death. A bigger plot hole was that someone wanted to fight Brad Pitt, Edward Norton, after he was beating himself up in a parking lot. That's not a guy you even look at, let alone ask for a fair one. Everyone always asks why there was a desert in Washington, D.C. in Transformers 2. It has been clearly explained in a ton of discussions of that movie that it was just a really bad movie. El Mao never realized it was Washington. Yep. They were in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, and when they go outside there is an airplane graveyard in a desert. The flaw in the Death Star's construction. We didn't need Rogue One to explain it was a deliberate sabotage. So an exhaust port has a flaw. It is not unreasonable to believe that the flaw was necessitated for efficiency. Knowing that the flaw was inevitable, the trench leading up to the port was protected with gun towers. Tarkin, along with other officers, fully believed that the Death Star was superior in its construction, that small fighters would pose no threat to them. During the rebel assault, an officer pointed out to Tarkin that the rebel attack is exploiting this weakness and offers to prepare a transport for him. To which Tarkin responds, "Evacuate. In our moment of triumph. I think you overestimate their chances." To them, the weakness is negligible, that there is no chance a rebel fighter would be able to drop torpedoes into the port. And they were right. The first fighter to make an attempt failed. Luke was only able to succeed because he used the Force instead of the computer. Something no one anticipated because they all believed that the Jedi were extinct. Also, for the missile to travel the length of the exhaust port without smacking into a wall and prematurely detonating before it reached the core was 1 in a million. Like, did you see that 90-degree turn it did right into the port? Luke didn't just use the Force to guide it in. He used the Force to guide it in and all the way to the core. Tarkin was completely right to think it was impossible. Because without magic it was. It all came down to arrogance. Vader was also right when he said, "The power to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force." Quote from Independence Day, "How could a virus programmed on Earth computers destroy the computer system of an alien civilization?" Quote, in a deleted scene, it's revealed that technology from the spaceship at Area 51 was harvested and used as the basis for most of Earth's post-WW2 computer technology. Once you know that, the whole thing becomes a lot more believable. I prefer to think that the alien computers couldn't decipher the Mac OS, so it exploded itself. I always thought of it as a callback to War of the Worlds, the original alien invasion story. At the end of the book, the aliens are defeated by any man-made weapon but by bacteria and germs. They were so advanced, they forgot about an immune system and simply got sick from Earth diseases. A modern alien invasion movie using a different kind of virus to defeat the aliens is a nice call back. Exactly right. It was a very clear callback, and I'm pretty sure the director acknowledged that at some point. Is there some kind of Mandela effect going on with the Titanic movie? Why doesn't Rose let Jack get on? They can both fit. Jack does try to get on. It starts to sink with both of their weight on it. It's a case of people thinking if they spent enough time solving the problem, they could figure it out. Hell, Mythbusters showed that by rigging up the life preservers, they could both fit on. It was dark and the water was ice cold. Every minute in the water was risking death. They tried it once, it failed, Jack made a call. That was an entirely reasonable decision given the circumstances. People just don't respect how cold the North Atlantic is. If you weren't 100% on that raft, you would absolutely die from the cold. The fact that they could keep swimming in there without going into cold shock or hypothermia was already pretty unrealistic to me. They had been in the water for a while before. Lord of the Rings. The Eagles. They are not a taxi service. They would be subject to the ring influence too. They're a flying Nazgul that could intercept them. There is a big fucking spotlight eye that could shine on them the moment they approach the border of Mordor. Failing all that, an entire army of Orc could wait at Mount Doom, making any approach impossible. Edit. The Eagles are sentient. They are not mindless beasts that just do whatever the rider wants. Edit 2. I'm not a Tolkien expert. I'm a dungeon master and have to smack down my players' crazy ideas all the time. Couldn't agree more. They aren't just the Eagles, either. They are the Eagles of Manwë, the king of Arda. Not a fucking Uber. They only came for Gandalf because he saved Gwaihir, the king of the Eagles, from a poison arrow. Funnily enough, Tolkien himself also has an answer to that question, and it's not the same as you guys. https://www.youtube.com/watch V equals 1UZ0LMBWPI. Exactly. The key part of the mission to destroy the ring was stealthily sneaking it in. Flying a bunch of giant eagles to Mordor isn't subtle. There's a reason Elrond didn't send an army like the previous attempt to defeat Sauron. Then, when an army did arrive at the gates, they didn't have the ring. They were the diversion. Stealthily and more importantly carried by someone who wouldn't get corrupted. That's really the difficult part here, and only hobbits are shown to be suitable.